So we have quite a few takeaways from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to America, meeting with Trump. A few different things I want to show you from some of his media interviews, because I think they're quite significant things that he's had to say and that Trump said. First of all, what has he learned from October 7th and rising anti-Semitism around the world? Brett Baer asked him this on Fox.
Last thing, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned since that horrible day of October 7th? And characterize, if you could, what you see about anti-Semitism around the world and where it stands today.
I think the lesson actually goes back to the Holocaust. If somebody says they want to kill you, they want to destroy you, annihilate you, believe them, and be prepared at all times to fend them off. We've shown that very ably with the courage of our incredible, heroic soldiers, just incredible. With the case of communities around the world of Jews, as in Sydney or massacred, or here in the United States, you had these horrible things happen here too. I think it really depends on the position of the government. Do they speak out against it? President Trump does. Many governments don't, and they should. But Jews around the world should always know that Israel will stand by them and will help governments who want to fight anti-Semitism. And the last thing I would tell you is anti-Semitism starts with the attacks on the Jews, but it never ends there. It goes on to others, blacks, Hispanics, and so on. Eventually, it just poisons the entire society. So it's not really in the interest of the Jewish people to fight anti-Semitism. It's the interest of all free societies to stop it.
So that's the first thing I want to show you, and I think there's two key take-home points there. Point number one, so essential that people don't seem to understand the West, but Netanyahu very clearly does. If someone says they want to kill you, believe them. We have far too much intelligentsia-type thinking that tries to rationalize and sanitize deeply hateful, anti-Semitic, anti-Western, anti-American views. Oh, well, they just have those views because they don't have a state. They just have those views because America and the West has been so terrible to them. Hey, whatever happened to morality not favouring the rich or the poor, but being based on how good you are? Whether you do good, whether you do evil. Oh, well, they've been oppressed for so long. Doesn't take away moral agency, even if someone has been oppressed. Of course, in the case of the Palestinians, their oppression is self-inflicted because they've chosen genocide against the Jews time and time again. But either way, our faulty morality of whoever is oppressed can do no wrong, it is very dangerous, and it leads us not to take seriously the threats of those who genuinely want to destroy us. They did this in World War II, by the way. Before World War II, well, Hitler's just a bit upset about Versailles. He doesn't want global domination. Even the Jews, many of them said, nah, what are you talking about? We're more German than the Germans. I was so moved when Netanyahu, in his speech, as Israel began their war against Iran and destroying Iran's nuclear sites, Netanyahu said, very plainly, if someone tries to kill you, you kill them first. And if someone says they want to kill you, you believe them. And he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. The second point he said about anti-Semitism, that's absolutely right. Don't just think we're banging the drum about anti-Semitism because we're purely self-concerned. No, it is a sign of societal, universal moral decay. It's not about something that's just particular to the Jews. And one thing we as Jews maybe don't sometimes appreciate or convey to others is that the story of the Jewish people as a light unto the nations includes all the nations of the world as well. This is a story about the world's destiny, where Israel has a role in this unfolding destiny, this unfolding drama. So do the rest of the world. This idea that our destiny and our future and our security are just about us, it's about everyone. And as we see time and again throughout history, those who curse the Jews end up with a cursed society. And that's not just spiritual, that's morality. If you turn your back on the values, the morality that God gave to Israel as a model for society, then your society will descend naturally into decay and chaos. So this is just a time-tested truth. Interesting point that I want to talk to you about. Netanyahu was asked about the Somaliland recognition. So funny to see these Arab and Islamic countries condemn Israel for unilaterally recognizing Somaliland as its own independent state. Haven't you been doing that when recognizing Palestine? But suddenly when it's Somaliland, which isn't a radical Islamist country, but has a more moderate Muslim population, and it's situated at a very critical part of basically near the Arabian Peninsula, some important shipping routes it has access to, and can kind of really upend the current power balance status quo by Israel having an ally there. Well, very, very interesting stuff. Very strategic. Interesting also that some are saying Israel was almost doing it as a stress test to see how much they can push the status quo and see how much pushback they get. But he was asked about this on Newsmax. Let's have a watch of what Netanyahu had to say.
One last question, because now you have to go. Somaliland. I had to look it up on the map. You have recognized Somaliland. You are the first nation to do so. Now that I know where it is, I studied a little history for it, but why? What provoked that and the timing?
Well, Somaliland has 6 billion citizens, moderate Muslims. They want to join the Abraham Accords, and I think that's very good. They are Democrats. Have had elections. The rest of Somalia, which is Kochpodge, has had al-Shabaab terrorists there. Never had elections since for decades. Got a lot of terrorists coming there. So why not support democratic, moderate country, Muslim country that wants to join the Abraham Accords? I think everybody should do that.
But I guess
if we have to be first.
I guess we didn't see it coming, and you're the first nation, and I'm going, Somaliland?
Yeah, Somaliland, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll have to go visit Somaliland. I take you can help me get a interview with the president.
I'll do my best.
All right. Thank you, sir.
So there you go. Just interesting stuff. Interesting to see his reaction there. Now comes the question of Judea and Samaria and the West Bank, because there's a question around, is there going to be some disagreement here between Trump and Netanyahu?
The president said this.
I wouldn't say we agree on the West Bank 100%, but we will come to a conclusion on the West Bank.
Where's the daylight?
Oh, I think there's a lot of daylight, because I think we both want to see a future in which that territory is not used for terrorist attacks. We've done a lot of things in that regard. We also want to build a lot of infrastructure there, both for us and for our Palestinian neighbors, and I think there's a lot of room to talk about it. But I think ultimately, Israel has to have the military control over this area, because it's so tiny.
So, first of all, yes, obviously that is absolutely right. Israel cannot, will not, ever cede the territory of Judea and Samaria. It was referred to as the West Bank because it's trying to detach the Jewish significance of this area. You should know this is Judea and Samaria. The term Jew comes from Judea, from Judah, the tribe of Judah. Jerusalem is in this area. This idea that it's somehow separated from the Jewish people's land and history is absurd. And it was called the West Bank to suggest that it's on the west of the bank of the Jordan River. And it was called that, when Jordan captured this territory, illegally occupying it, never creating a Palestinian state in that area, one should note, which tells you a lot about what's really going on here. And Israel, both from a security standpoint, both from who their enemy has shown themselves to be standpoint, and from a historical and divine standpoint, Israel should have control over this territory. Now, Bibi is just saying, well, it should just be military. We are also looking at maybe some settlements, both for Israelis and Palestinians. I personally say this should be Jewish land and territory. This isn't to say non-Jews can't live there, but we should say, look, you Palestinians, quote unquote, Arabs, have shown that you're not actually interested in a two-state solution. So we're going to apply Jewish sovereignty here. If you want to live here, you need to understand and accept that the values of living under Jewish sovereign state. And there's no reason not to have non-Jews living there, but you can't want to kill us. I hope that's not too much to ask. You can't believe that this state is entirely illegitimate and is worthy of destruction. No state should accept that and tolerate that. And as I say, if the Palestinians showed that they genuinely wanted statehood and that was that, just for, in the area of Judea and Samaria and Gaza, then maybe there could be a conversation to be had decades ago. Now, we tried for 100 years, it hasn't worked. 2005, we actually tried it in practice. We left Gaza, and what did we get? We got our answer very clearly as to what would happen. That's why Israel can't do this. So my question would be, what is Trump pushing for here? Because I'm getting very mixed messages from Trump, and I wonder if you, dear viewers, can help give me clarity here. On the one hand, Trump he was kind of speaking about how he thinks remigrating the Gazans could be a really good idea. On the other hand, he's talking about Israel needing to rebuild Gaza for the people of Gaza. There's two such different visions. One so clearly is a departure from the failed solutions of the past, and the other one is a repetition of the failed solutions. But then with Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, as some term it, I kind of sense that it sounds like he's maybe pushing for some kind of autonomy there for the Palestinians. I don't know. I'm not sure. But the fact that there is this supposedly some kind of slight disagreement makes me wonder what exactly is going on here. And it is so important from not just a security perspective, not just a legal perspective, not just a rationality perspective, but any idea of the Jewish people withdrawing from parts of territory that is Jewish on a cosmic spiritual level, that is never, ever going to end well. Again, as I say, we saw that in Gaza. And so I wonder, what is Netanyahu thinking? What is Trump thinking? It seems to me like Netanyahu, for whatever reason, feels like he is unable to take it, a policy position as far as I and some others are advocating for. Why can't he just say, instead of saying, well, the Palestinians should have some right to autonomy and to govern themselves, but not to threat us, why doesn't he just say the Palestinian cause as a national identity is phony and we're not going to indulge in it anymore? Why can't he say that? He said that decades ago in some of these early clips of him when he was in his 20s. I showed that to you. I know he knows it. Of course he knows it. He clearly, I think, feels constrained by what he can and can't say. Perhaps he's thinking in order to maintain Israel's security. But, I think Trump is an out-of-the-box thinker. He's shown that with regard to the whole question of Gaza. So, if not now, when, is what I say. Lastly, I want to show you a clip where he's asked about his views on Trump.
I think here in the United States, he's got 50% of the population adore him, mega people. And then you've got 50% of the population that thinks he's awful.
Well, history has a way of settling these questions over time, and people can see who are the outstanding presidents. I'm the son of a historian. I'll tell you, history will judge him well. So sometimes it takes time for people to appreciate, because there's this battle, internal battle of, constant vilification and political opposition. But ultimately, that's settled over time. The dust settles, and you see who made the difference, who really changed things, who brought America back. He did.
I think here in the
Yep. And, there definitely is a strong case to make so far, extremely strong case to make, that with regard to Israel, Trump has been enormously consequential and positive in what he's done for the state of Israel, for the Jewish people, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, the Iran war. There's a whole list of other things as well to talk about here. So my question is not, has Trump done great amounts of positive policy decisions here when it comes to Israel and the Jewish people, but now moving forward, what's going to happen? What's going to be the case? There's some question marks now, aren't there? And so we have to keep making the case. We have to keep speaking out, because I do believe that with Trump, when it comes to his concern, this issue, his, as Rabbi Mendel Kessin pointed out in a recent interview I did with him, he spoke about the spiritual significance of President Trump. There's no doubt that he has the possibility to play a hugely significant role in being a significant figure that transitions the world, ushering it into a totally different messianic era. But the question is, will he get over his need for maybe Nobel Prizes, recognition, all that kind of stuff, to want to try and force things that might look good on the surface, but actually are going to end in really bad outcomes? So is he going to try and force shallow solutions, or actually do what's right? That might not be popular initially, but in the end will get him all the way. And he is someone that is prepared to be bold, prepared to do what he thinks is for the best. So he's got it within him, and now we just have to see what will unfold. A quick message. We all hear about the Palestinian displacement, or Nakba, of 1948. But you know, there was another, even greater displacement that we haven't been told about. Nearly 1 million Jews were expelled from Arab lands at the exact same time. Watch the trailer for our new and absolutely essential documentary called The Real Nakba. And if you want to watch the full film, just click the link below in the video description. We've all been told about the Nakba, the Palestinian catastrophe of 1948. Around 700,000 Arabs were displaced. But here's what you're rarely told. That displacement didn't come from some Jewish plan for genocide. It wasn't Israel's goal. It wasn't Israel's desire. It happened because Arab leaders launched a war of annihilation. They tried to wipe out the newborn Jewish state, vowing to drive the Jews into the sea. And in the chaos of that war, people fled. Many because their leaders told them to, promising they'd return after victory. But the term Nakba was originally used to describe the fact that the Arabs lost the war, not the displacement. Now the term describes the displacement of war used as a political weapon against Israel. But you know, there was another Nakba you haven't been told about. A catastrophe rooted not in the fog of war, but in the clear, deliberate desire for persecution and genocide. It happened at the very same time, and it led to even more displacement. Yet most of the world has never heard of it. Over 850,000 Jews, more than the number of displaced Arabs, were driven from their homes across the Arab world. Communities that had thrived for millennia were uprooted overnight. Families stripped of citizenship, of property, of dignity, assaulted, expelled, forced to flee with nothing but their faith. Why? Because they were Jews. Because Israel dared to exist. Because the Arab League openly orchestrated it, drafting plans in 1947 to freeze Jewish bank accounts, seize property, and intern Jews as enemy nationals. This is the real Nakba, a catastrophe born of pure anti-Semitism. In this JTV documentary, we'll journey country by country, from Baghdad to Cairo, from Sana'a to Tripoli, uncovering buried truths and survivor voices. And no, this isn't a tale of victimhood, it's a saga of endurance, courage, and triumph. Because the Jewish people didn't just survive this Nakba, we rebuilt, we came home. In Israel, our phoenix soared from the ashes. So buckle up and let's dive in. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.